Turismo Amanhã. David Rowan fala-nos de tecnologia, tendências e transformação.
Bom dia. So for the past few years, I've taken groups of 50 tech people to the Douro for 3-day, 4-day networking trips. And we get them working on the local environment. This is me hard at work. And these are entrepreneurs and investors. We get them doing the things that haven't yet been digitalized in the local ecosystem. And it made me think that this isn't tourism. This is getting talent to come to Portugal, but each of them goes away with another reason to come back. They want to come back with their teams to have an offsite. Some of them want to come back to invest. Some of them want to come back to build an office for their companies. And on balance, they want to add, not to take away from the local economy, community, society. And I'm thinking travel, tourism, increasingly has a reputation that makes people anxious. It's extractive. It causes stress. I think it's time to put love back at the heart of what tourism is. And technology can enable this. Not just because AI can take away the friction of that journey, but because it also allows us to personalize the journey, the experience, the expectation based on the individual. Because you can swallow up enormous amounts of data and deliver millions of individual experiences. And yet the problem is this is increasingly the media story of tourism. It's worse in Spain. And I think the problem that we need to overcome is to tell a more engaging story, that tourism is not extractive. We need to move post-extractive. It's more about reframing, using the tools of technology, that bringing people from another place into Portugal, into the Azores, into Madeira, is an opportunity for growth, for environmental regeneration, for bringing talent that can come long-term, for investment, but also for reframing Portugal as the place that can experiment in reinventing what tourism is. Because before we had tech that could personalize, travel was a commodity product that you sold, and it had to be a mass product. That era has gone, and yet we're not thinking radically enough about what that means. And it means we can take people to little niche areas, to places that they haven't been sold in advance based on their personal goals, their desires. We can build communities inside Portugal around common interests. Entrepreneurs coming for the Web Summit is just one example, but it leads to secondary benefits as some of them start building here. It means we can build communities of interest that are not mass marketed as tourism products, but it uses the special benefits of this ecosystem as a platform on which talent can build. And so I'm thinking the growth areas that tech can enable is partly about the ecosystem, about regenerating. It's partly about bringing in diverse talent from lots of other places that can use technology in creative new ways to create business, which is the definition of innovation. And it's also connecting people, not just tourists separate as that thing there, but embedding them based on interests in local communities. And I think the key takeaway I've had is tourism isn't that commodity thing you sell now. It's the way of delivering the other benefits, which tech can help with. But one of the first things I think about when I think about AI is it's a love enabler and a friction reducer. And if you think about the word travel itself, it comes from this Roman torture instrument, the trapalium, the three-pronged torture instrument that over time iterated travel, travail, work, and especially in the Middle Ages, the stress associated with moving long distances. Travel was a torture. And yet tech can reframe so that we don't think about the friction, the things that we're anxious about, the things that don't work. You will have had a love moment when you went for the first time through the smart gates at an airport like the UAE, and you didn't have to take your passport out because the biometrics just worked. You have probably started tracking your own bags using AirTags or equivalents because you know tech can dissipate a lot of those worries. We now have tech also eroding the Tower of Babel, allowing people wearing the latest AirPod Pros to communicate in different languages. It's just the beginning, but it does show that the friction, the anxiety about being a stranger in another place is reducing. And I think we need more moments of love, delight in that whole journey experience. I remember when I was in Helsinki airport in the departure lounge, there was this interactive 360-degree screen with sound, and it transported you into the tundra, the forest. It was unexpected, but it made me feel this wasn't the stress of being in an airport. I arrived last week in the Bahamas for a few days to do some work. When you go to the airport, they have bands, they have musicians. It transforms the stress of having done a 10, 11-hour journey into, oh wow, this is an unexpected delight. It's designed into the experience. This is not high tech. The personalization that you get in some hotels, I had this in the Pullman Hotel in Paris, makes you feel seen. This is not high tech. But behind the scenes, the tech enables that personalization, enables that sense of I'm being understood. And that's what people will pay extra for. That's what will get them coming back. Because we want not a commodity product, we want experiences. We want to express our identity. When I was in Dubai, I went to the 25 Hours Hotel, which is doing something really unusual for a hotel. It's turned it into a free co-working space. Hundreds of people can work inside the hotel with no commitment to stay or to buy food and beverage. They've just created a welcoming hub. And there's a secondary benefit. Those people do end up buying things and staying there. But on the first floor, the government has decided to fund what they call the Founders HQ, a separate area where startup founders and investors can come as a base, because they are on a mission to create 30 unicorns in the UAE by the end of this decade. And they know it's about attracting talent. And why can't that talent acquisition be a layer on top of tourism? So tourism is a platform that can attract those extra benefits. And travel, as we've come to understand it, has different business models. There was a fascinating piece in The New Yorker a few weeks ago about the whole business of airline lounges. It turns out that an airline like Delta, which was losing tens of billions of dollars a year whilst making $10 billion from its cards, its bank cards, tied to access to the airline lounge. This year, the bank card that Delta issues is going to earn them $8 billion because they get access to the lounge. And it makes you rethink what the business of airlines is. It's a credit card loyalty business built on lounges. People want that status, they will pay, they will become loyal, not for the travel itself. And what technology is doing at the moment is it creating the expectation that every experience will be magic. And if you think about it, we're now told that we can have sushi or Mexican food to our door within 10 minutes. We're told that instantly you should be able to listen to any music anywhere in the world. We are in a car with no driver that just gets us there using tech. Waymo has just come to Europe in London. And the magic, because of AI, keeps reaching higher levels. ChatGPT recently announced it was going to be your doctor. It's devised a whole health strategy, and people are trusting it with their most intimate, personal data points. And it's changing our behavior in all sorts of ways that we haven't yet acknowledged. It's changing the dating scene. Somebody posted on Twitter recently that Gen X people are uploading their entire chat histories, their texts, their shared photos to ChatGPT, and it's advising them, having analyzed the relationship, on how they should respond. It's not how dating was in my day, but you're going to get the agent talking to the other agent, and I guess that's what love is going to be. But it's moving incredibly fast, and I think all of us, even if you think your business is not an AI-related business, need to be on top of it, because these are going to change expectations, behaviors, and they're going to provide new kinds of tools to change your business model. And just looking at generative AI, which just keeps surprising me, things that are happening now that weren't possible a few months ago. This song is now in the Billboard chart. And Zania Monet doesn't exist. She's AI. We've now got to the stage where the AI-generated video for the AI-written and performed song is good enough to enter mainstream charts. What about video? There was, a few months ago, an artist called Billy Woodward, who lives in Brooklyn, who wanted to see if he could make a Pixar-quality short animation in 1 week for no budget, just using the tools that everybody else can use. And this is what it gave him. It's magic. It's just expected now. There's an AI researcher called Ethan Molik who, a few months ago, started playing with VO3 and gave it a little prompt, said, I want to have a Broadway musical about garlic bread. and this is what it composed.
Garlic bread, my heart's true desire.
And then he said, well, forget the Broadway musical. Let's have some amateur dramatic Shakespeare actors performing something about garlic bread.
Hey, nonny, nonny, 'tis time for thy garlic bread.
And the thing is, this costs nothing. And it wouldn't have been possible a year ago. And yet, increasingly, this is the expectation. What do you do if you're a Hollywood studio and you can take anyone's live face and transpose it into all sorts of different actors in real time? It's disruptive. You can't ignore it, but it's there. And AI is accelerating at the same time as other technologies are accelerating. What's happening in robotics, especially the emergence of the humanoid robot, it's working in the same direction. Just as the large language models are learning by their interactions and getting better, the robot software layers are learning from their interactions with the real world. And there's even a new kind of job you can do. In India, there's lots of people wearing GoPros, filming their arm movements. These are known as arm farms, because they're providing learning data, training data for the big tech companies.
Hey, Aloha, let's play a game. So I have a scene in front of you. I'm gonna make some secret changes. You'll have to figure out what they are and then reset the scene back to the original state. Reset the scene.
Based on the changes, first I will close the laptop. Next, I will close the glasses case. Now I will put the green pen back into the brown tray.
So what we're seeing here is what we've started to call embodied reasoning, the ability
So this is
of
a
Gemini
team
to
at
recognize
Google
space and time
using
and
Gemini
changes
to
and
train the
planning and
robots, and they're talking
progress.
about this idea of embodied reasoning.
success detection
So the
knowledge
physical
of our model
object
has got to
is
the
now
level of
able to do
understanding
what the
what is
large
success
language
and what's
model
not.
has been doing, thinking for itself. There was a concert in China a few weeks ago, Wang Lihome's concert, with humanoid robots, who were then dancing and somersaulting with him on stage. We got to the stage where drones in China, this one in Chengdu had 12,000 drones recently, was in the Guinness Book of Records, all controlled by AI and GPS. So the physical and the software world are now merging and interacting. And the thing is, you don't need to be an expert to join in. Anybody here, if you haven't written your own app, can go to one of the platforms like Replit and vibe code your own app. And there's 40 million people using Replit. And vibe coding is simply telling it in normal language what you want it to be based on the feeling you have.
Make a multiplayer flight simulator that's going to make me rich. See, this is all just hype. Engineers are not going anywhere. You can't just one-shot a flight simulator. It's magic! Engineers are going away soon! Now make...
So I think where this all starts is this idea that stuff that was impossible yesterday, tomorrow will be ubiquitous and everywhere and free. When I started editing Wired, somebody sent me this photograph from 1956 and said, this is going to help define the stories you tell. And it's of 5 megs of IBM computer storage being uploaded to the cloud, which, if you think about it, is today just one photo on your iPhone. Because stuff that was expensive and scarce because of Moore's law, because of this doubling and doubling, over time becomes ubiquitous and free. And these exponential curves are hitting all sorts of aspects of tech, not just storage, processing. This is the falling cost over the last 50 years on a logarithmic scale of solar energy. This is, over the last quarter of a decade, the falling cost of lithium-ion batteries. This is the falling cost since the 90s of electric motors per kilowatt. And this is happening in every area of tech. It's happening in genomics too. And that means that what today looks like it doesn't affect you, it's expensive, because of the inflections on that exponential curve, can suddenly become the determinant, the norm, the thing that you can't avoid. Just over a year ago, Jensen Huang launched a new NVIDIA chip, and on stage there was one of these curves behind him that showed over the previous 8 years the computational power of their chips had gone up 1,000 times. So we're living in a world full of these exponential curves where it's really dangerous to say, well, that's not going to affect me. I can wait a bit. Because that doubling and doubling and doubling changes behavior, changes industries, changes economies. And it happens at an increasingly steep pace. This, over the last quarter century, is how good AI has been at performing tasks compared to humans. The black horizontal line is as good as a person. If you look on the left, the blue line is recognizing handwriting, and it took until 2012, 2013 to get as good as humans. But on the very right, well, orange, generating code, almost a straight line. Green, understanding common sense. Very, very vertical. Which means that stuff that yesterday was a bit meh, this is the quality of mid-journey images over about 18 months. Tomorrow becomes, oh my goodness, we don't need to hire a photographer. We can generate everything. It is so good. And yet, it's really hard for us, because we're kind of human beings, we're linear, to move at the speed of these exponentials. This is a well-respected engineer at Anthropic. He was the lead name on the DeepMind AlphaGo paper. And he wrote a blog post recently, anxious that people are still dismissing AI as a hype bubble. And he said, it reminds me of February 2020, when there were increasing reports of this strange new virus affecting people in all parts of the world. And people were dismissing it as, it's going to be local, it's not going to be serious. And he said, we're having the same misreading of AI today. We're failing to see the power of the doubling and doubling and doubling of those curves. And I think it's a wake-up call that is going to affect your business as much as a tech-led business, because it's going to change people's expectations. This is, on a logarithmic scale, how the ability of AI to perform a task is doubling every 7 months or so. And we're still at the very early stages. So what's this going to mean in maybe 5 years? Well, intelligence becomes superintelligence. This is Eric Schmidt.
One way to say this is that within 3 to 5 years, we'll have what is called general intelligence, AGI, which can be defined as a system that is as smart as the smartest mathematician, physicist, or artist, writer, thinker, politician. It gets much more interesting after that. Because remember, the computers are now doing self-improvement. They're learning how to plan, and they don't have to listen to us anymore. We call that superintelligence, or ASI, artificial superintelligence. And this is the theory that there will be computers that are smarter than the sum of humans. The San Francisco consensus is this occurs within 6 years, just based on scaling. This path is not understood in our society. There's no language for what happens with the arrival of this. That's why it's underhyped.
And we're getting there quickly. This is Vinod Khosla, the venture capitalist, who's talking about humanoid robots over the next 10, 15 years becoming a bigger business than the car industry, because it's getting cheaper and better. So this is how I'm thinking about AI now, or rather this. It's electricity, it's going to be everywhere, it's going to be plugged in we are not going to talk about AI. There's just going to be an expectation that it will be feeding everything. And people worry about what it's going to do for their jobs. This is the head of Netflix who was asked by the New York Times, are we going to get a Netflix series just generated by AI? And he said,
there's not a scenario, I don't believe, that an AI program is going to write a better screenplay than a great writer, or going to replace a great performance, or we won't be able to tell the difference. AI is not going to take your job. The person who uses AI well might take your job.
AI is not going to take your job, but the person who uses AI well might take your job. So I think all of us need to become both comfortable playing with these tools and not thinking, well, it's not going to affect our industry. We're about selling an experience, selling a room, selling a way of getting to a place. We don't know how it's going to affect us. And also, we don't know what travel is going to be, because there's some super ambitious, well-funded startups using the latest technologies to do crazy things. Hypersonic planes, the idea that you'll be able to travel to the other side of the world in just a few minutes. Elon has been talking about this for about 8 years, the idea of Lisbon to Sydney in 30 minutes. He tweeted a few months ago that they're ready for it, just need regulators. What about what's happening in cities like Dublin now, where in 3 minutes a drone can deliver not just your food, but your pharmaceuticals, because this is being embedded in the urban landscape. What about your kids learning? Well, there are now AI tutors that work in 300 languages and customize the lesson plans for that individual child's abilities, which forces us, I think, to think, okay, what if? What if we used AI and whatever other emergent, autonomous, robotic tools we're going to have at our disposal to rethink what the business of tourism is? What if you could customize the experience for a few million people a year coming to Portugal, and you can both have personal conversations with them in advance and understand what they want, but automate at scale the delivery of those experiences using systems that suck in data and quantify those values in ways that build value to local economies, to local communities? What if you could quantify which parts of the country are underused as destinations? What if you could feed in everything from the changing price of renting an apartment to changing weather to environmental data, and then use that to help create higher level future-facing jobs based on the demand of those individuals? And these jobs may be about connecting people to local communities. It could be about delivering experiences in ways that are customized to the needs of those individuals and those groups. It could be about curating environmental data to ensure that Portugal is a leader in showing what sustainable tourism could be. Because the cost of collecting, processing, making decisions from this data is falling to zero, but the expectation of that customer is they should have magic. They should be able to feel that love for the experience without having any of that friction. When I was in Dubai for my book, I talked to the head of their Future Foundation, Khalfan Belhoul, who said, what if we didn't even have airports? Nobody likes that experience of going into the airport. What if, because you have these biometric identifiers, you got into a cab in the middle of the city, the driver knew who you were, they validated you, they take you straight to the plane? Why can't we? What if? And I think we need a bit more what-if thinking, because the old rules, well, are they going to be relevant? And every industry is thinking in these new ways. In China, there's a company called Fotile that makes kitchen equipment, cookers. They're embedding their own custom large language models so they can customize your meal plan. Maybe you're pregnant. Maybe you're about to run a marathon. They'll do it for you. What about a local Portuguese entrepreneurial hero who created a business called Duolingo? How are they using AI?
Massive accelerant. We just released 148 new courses, and it took us only 1 year to do this. For comparison, the previous 100 plus courses took us 12 years.
Everybody is starting to play. And the thing is, you can now get a one-person company based on AI that's generating, this one is generating $7 million a year. There's a whole bunch of these new companies. This one as well transcribes your audio. $7 million a year, one founder using these tools. There's a whole bunch that are an inspiration, I think, because it means the rules of creating a business have just been torn up, because everybody has access to these products. You don't need to be a technical genius. Because I think we're at that moment where I don't quite know what the rules are. You know, what is a country? What is a geographic border? You and I can now become an e-resident of Estonia without ever going to Estonia, but having the right to set up a company inside their fairly low-tax jurisdiction. There's a movement in my tech ecosystem to start building new independent states that don't necessarily have conventional geography, but have decentralized economies. They talk a lot about blockchain. And there's projects like this one, Praxis, which has raised $500 million to create a physical place where they can set their own rules. And there's a growth of these. So what is a country? What is a physical destination? When there is a community of interest, there's a thriving economic base, but shared values. This, I think, is what we need to focus on more than the detail of our business. When a new tech platform comes along, psychology more than technology is the barrier to adoption. And if you look back at the introduction of other new tech paradigms, they're often slowed down in three key ways. The first one is we dismiss them, we laugh at them, we don't take them seriously. In 1946, the first electronic computer was launched in the US, and this is how a newsreel reported it at the time.
Are people becoming obsolete? A giant electronic brain has started cogitating at the University of Pennsylvania. It's made of vacuum tubes like your radio, and it can add up a column of figures a yard long in a second. It's the world's first electronic computer. Right now, it's solving mathematical problems for the U.S. Army, but who knows? Someday a machine like this may check up on your income tax.
Who knows? Someday it may check up on your income tax. Haha, it's not a threat. The second thing is we treat this new technology as something exotic for this small specialist group. The spreadsheet in the 90s. This is an advert for a Microsoft Excel product with these glamorous, troubled people in the city, forgetting that this is going to be useful for all of us soon. And the third thing I think we get wrong is we get too fixed on our own way of doing things and what's worked for us. 2007, Steve launches the iPhone, and the head of a big tech company that was making smartphones was asked on television whether he saw this as a threat, and this is what he said.
$500 fully subsidized with a plan? I said, that is the most expensive phone in the world, and it doesn't appeal to business customers because it doesn't have a keyboard, which makes it not a very good email machine.
How did that work out, Steve Ballmer at Microsoft? So I'll give you a couple of tips, I think, that fit this emergent mindset of this crazy, fast-moving world where we're just beginning. And the first one is I think we all have to be prepared to forget everything we've known as fixed. I know a film director who's won lots of awards, Oscars. His name's Shekhar Kapoor, and he makes these movies with hundreds of people on a set. This is one of his films, Elizabeth. He did Bandit Queen, he's done Mr. India, he's done so many. And I said to him, this must be really worrying for you, the idea that people can generate a movie and you won't need your skills. And he said, no, it's completely the opposite. I'm never more excited now than when I start thinking about how AI is going to transform storytelling for me. I'm more excited than any moment since I first picked up a camera lens. He says, when I'm hiring people to work on a movie, I don't care what they did at film school now. I want to know how good they are at writing those text prompts. I thought, okay, I got it wrong. I'm going to have to relearn. I thought having a human therapist was never going to be challenged by an online avatar. There's this app called Replica that lots of teens and 20-somethings are using to have personal confidants. There was a peer-reviewed paper in a Nature mental health journal last year, which talked to thousands of people using these apps, and a disproportionate number of them had said, actually, it stopped me self-harming. So there's a lot of stories we hear about the AI leading people to do something they shouldn't do, but there's also the opposite. The relationship that people perceive as having with the AI app has led to people not harming themselves. And again, it's what was my assumption? Maybe I need to challenge it, which links to the second suggestion. Things are going to keep changing. We're going to keep getting disrupted. And it makes us uncomfortable. And, I know what being disrupted feels like. I was making a paper, shiny magazine. Then I wrote a book, and the publisher asked me to record the audiobook, so I spent 3 days in a windowless studio. And after I came out, I realized there was a startup that could have done it in a couple of minutes.
Audiobook in just 10 minutes. Now you can, using audiobook.ai, for 10 times less than paying a voice.
So I have no economic value. Then I also saw there was a startup that could have written the book for me using AI, so I'd wasted that whole year. And I think the third suggestion is don't just talk to people in the travel business. Talk to people in all sorts of unrelated businesses. Go to that crypto event. Go to that human rights event, because each of them is struggling to adapt these new tools that's available to everyone in new ways. And you'll get inspired, you'll get new ideas by how they're doing things. Because I think we're in a world where cognitive diversity matters more than anything. And cognitive diversity is something they take super seriously at Google X, the moonshot team at Google that created the Waymo self-driving car, where they don't just have people on teams with the same background of thinking. Not just engineers and physicists, but you'll also add somebody who used to be a dance teacher, a concert pianist, because they ask questions from a different place, and that is what creates proper innovation. So I think the skill set for the next few years, you're going to have to be adaptable, keep asking new questions. You have to be hopeful, because I think these tools, even though we get a bit gloomy about the impact on jobs, on identity, there's an opportunity to build. But you need to keep experimenting and playing, and you need to talk to people who are from outside your comfort zone. Because with AI, we're back here. Do you remember when the App Store launched 2008, and this was one of the best-selling apps? Who'd have known that your phone was going to be your identity, where you do all your purchasing, your banking, your streaming of videos? We are still back in 2006 for YouTube, when this was the sort of stuff that we were watching on YouTube. Who'd have known that YouTube would have become the $500 billion winner of the TV wars? Because connectivity grows, the power of the platform grows, talent is there. And I'm going to leave you with, I think, a way of thinking that the first editor of American Wired, Kevin Kelly, set down beautifully in an essay he wrote 12 years ago called "You Are Not Late." And he was looking back from 2014 to 20 years earlier, the mid-90s, when the World Wide Web was just getting going, the first consumer websites were appearing. And he said, we were playing on these new browsers. This was what the web browser was. Mosaic became Netscape. This is what Yahoo was. It was the first directory of the World Wide Web, hand-curated. This was everything they could find. And he said, we thought then that was it. All the great opportunities had been taken. And back from when he was writing this in 2014, he said, people are going to look back on today from their holodecks, from their wearable VR contact lenses, from their downloadable avatars and AI interfaces, and say, oh, wow, back in 2014, you really didn't have the internet. And he said, the truth is, today, he was talking about 2014, but I think the same could be said about 2026 in terms of AI. It's the best time to start something. There's never been a better, higher benefit to risk ratio, lower barriers, greater upside, better returns than this minute. This is the moment. We are living at the beginning. We will look back 20 years from now and say, wow, to have been alive and well back in 2026. Because we can shape it. And I think for tourism, that's what we can create. Not something that takes, but that's a utility, that's a way of bringing in the talent, the people who think differently, the people from different cultures, who want to engage locally, not just consume, who want to help build a sustainable economy, but also ecosystem. And tech is, I think, the way of generating this love and also building those future-facing, better-paid jobs and making sure the benefits are shared more widely through the country to build growth. Thank you. Do we have a few minutes for questions? If anybody has a question, we should send a drone, but we're going to send a human with a microphone. So there's a question here, and is there one on this side? Okay.
Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah, sorry, it's more of an observation. AI is obviously going to disrupt a lot of tourism businesses already. The typical hop-on and hop-off bus will be out of date. When you've got a Waymo car that can take you, you will basically not need a tour guide. You will basically be able to go 4 people to have your wine tour, to basically have AI tour guides. I've built AI tour guides already, and I've connected them to Waymo for 400 destinations, 400 avatars who speak 110 languages. So really, it's more a question of when the tech comes to disrupt the business, it's already there. Yeah.
So it's an observation that
so what we're
if
saying
you
is
didn't
that
hear...
We're talking about it moving, but it's already there. It's just waiting for the cars to come. Yep. And when the cars come, tour buses will not be needed. Tour guides will not be needed because it will be an avatar and an AI tour guide that will take you on your wine tour, 4 people together.
The opportunity, I guess, is even though some of the conventional roles disappear, we can create the higher value roles that can customize at scale, which people will pay more for, because you don't want to pay for a commodity, you want to pay for something that's special, that feels like it knows you.
Sorry, but it's like you can almost have your own personal tour, because basically you don't go on a tour bus with 25 people anymore. You basically have a Waymo that takes you on a wine tour, you and your 4 friends or companions, and that will cost 1/5 or 1/10 of the current price of these type of tours.
But you will probably still pay extra for the privilege of that customized experience that feels special to you. And that mass customization, I think, is what the AI can enable. So let's be hopeful. Is there a second question? The clock is ticking.
Hello, David. This is such a pleasure. So I'm going to add in, and I'm going to throw you 2 angles, more philosophical, though, and I would say, very selfish, because I want to have an answer for me as well. First of all, everything you mentioned about AI regarding human relations, to me, has only one element, that we're missing critical thinking. When AI is your companion, you're a psychologist, and I've experimented this on me, like consciously, clearly AI never really disagrees with me, always tries to boost my ego in a way, tells me, no, it's okay, everything is fine. So it takes away that possibility of really, going a little bit of a step forward. You feel always very good after talking to AI, all right? So if we eliminate critical thinking, where is progress? Where is advancement? You were just mentioning that, creators and tech leaders, when they want to develop something, they want to listen to different points of views. But in reality, what we're being thrown into as AI users, and I'm talking users, not actively creating, is we're sort of, are becoming self-reliable, not really questioning ourselves, like a comfortable, quiet life inside our house, because someone's going to deliver literally everything. I don't see where we're going to go out and stuff. So, that really doesn't make sense to me, because I don't see how that really matches progress. And on the other hand, you started in a very evocative and very true element, which is also your love for Portugal, that I completely share. I actually started living here just because I love the country. And you said we bring tech giants to harvest grapes. So there's such a true and sort of historic element to this, so grounded, so eternal, all right? That has absolutely nothing to do with technology and evolution and, adaptation and other, forget it. And that is such a human experience. So, and that for me, for example, now is the essence of travel. So how do we actually we learn to unlearn if in reality we're going back to,
the clock is ticking.
The roots?
So
Thank you.
We could get into deep politics and metaphysics, but governments generally don't like critical thinking too much, and big capitalist organizations don't like it. So how different is this for the masses than the mass media telling you who to vote for, what to think? And I think it's up to all of us, maybe as parents, maybe as educators, to encourage people to think for themselves, which is a hard skill, but I think education kind of needs a rethink. And secondly, AI knows what its market wants, and there's already been an acknowledgement that people don't like being told they're wonderful, they're perfect, because it feels a bit inauthentic. And they've changed the algorithm for Claude, for ChatGPT, to be less compliant. Because I think what's going to matter increasingly is a sense of authenticity. And you can fake authenticity, but only to a certain degree. And so my hope is humans who can still ask the difficult questions will have some comeback. But we're being chased for time. Thank you, everybody. Pleasure.